Live button. So let's wait for that stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we got to make sure YouTube connects to the Restream, which connects to the Rumble, which connects to the Twitter. We've already been on locals a little bit, so we're good there. But it looks like YouTube is working, which is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about the word confirmed. Hunter Biden has confirmed for us that he is the true owner of the laptop. There's been some debate about this out there for a long time for everybody else other than, well, us, has been saying that the laptop was a sort of a fictional story for a couple years and that it sort of was corroborated and it was never officially acknowledged by Hunter Biden, but today it is. And he's acknowledging it pretty hard. In fact, so hard that he put it in writing and he's sending letters over to a bunch of people, including the U.S. Department of Justice, along with the Delaware Attorney General's office. Tucker Carlson and Fox News got a letter, and our friend Garrett Ziegler over from Polo USA, we did an interview with him. They got a letter too, or they're getting inquiries because of their reporting. So we're going to go through all of it today. It's pretty outrageous behavior. Of course, Hunter Biden is the president's son. And so these letters, the one going to the Department of Treasury, the one going to the DOJ, those are complaints to daddy. Hunter Biden is complaining to his daddy president like a little child. So Karine Jean-Pierre got asked about this. We're going to go through this story. Joe Biden promised us the laptop was fake, wasn't real. A bunch of so-called intelligence idiots confirmed that for us. And it all is true. So we'll go through that story. We'll ask ourselves what Congress says about this. Ted Cruz is saying that Hunter Biden must be searched. His houses and residence must be investigated by the FBI and others. Ron Klain is exiting the White House. He had sort of an emotional exit today, and he was asked about the Biden documents because there's a lot of conflicting things going on here, right? The laptop from Hunter Biden seemingly implicates Joe Biden in the classified documents, and so we're asking if this is all just one big gigantic mess or influence peddling scheme, as James Comer has said. So we'll ask Ron Klain about that. He did an exit interview. Says we did everything great. We also have a couple clips from Karine Jean-Pierre. She was out there today, and she gave a couple statements about the accuracy or inaccuracy of the statements that have been made. We're going to go through each one of these letters in detail, and so we'll spend some time talking about all of this. Before we turn our attention over to Congress, because there was a little fun back and forth today, you see this woman here. Her name is Representative Ilhan Omar, and you may know her as a member of the Squad, which was, I think, a name they gave themselves. I don't know. But she was on a Foreign Affairs Committee. We know that the Republicans have taken charge over the House of Representatives, and they've decided not anymore. Not on our Foreign Affairs Committee. Sorry. And so they had a vote on that today, and there was some pretty spicy back and forth between a bunch of Congress people. Look at AOC, man. She is fired up. Look at her. She's pissed, man. How dare you? And look at Cori Bush behind her. She can't get enough of this, man. Look at her. Heck yeah, girl, go get it. They are just fired up. And so we'll go through that. How dare you throw Ilhan Omar off of this? How dare you? So we'll go through that. Ilhan Omar spoke about it. We got Rashida Taleb, who's coming up. We got Cori Bush. Those are all members of the Squad. We also have McCarthy. He's going to explain why he booted her off and wanted her gone in the first place. And we'll ask ourselves what other Congress people say. This guy is a Republican named Michael Lawler out of New York, and he explained why she needed to go. And we'll go through all of that before we see the House actually vote on it, on the resolution to remove Rep. Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. You can see it passed, so we'll talk all about it. All right, and so my friends, as you can see, we have a lot to get to today, and if you want to be a part of the program, the best place to do that is by going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. This is where we have a little extra fun. We have some member-only streams. You have an amazing community over there. People post stories, and we do member-only, like we did a morning stream today where we talked about the headlines on the day. Zach Nichols is chatting away. Dan is in the house. John Allen's over there. Gypsy Muse, American Granny. It's an amazing community. And so come check us out at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. shop.locals.com. Of course, I also want to thank the sponsors of today. We got Brickhouse Nutrition, which is where I get my field of greens, my superfood that's real and organic that makes me feel healthy and vibrant and gives me my daily servings of fruits and vegetables. And look at what it does for your hair, your follicles. Just outstanding. Wow. Amazing. And so check them out at fieldofgreens.com and use code Robert to save 15% off. Don't forget to use code Robert. Also, our law firm, the R&R Law Group, located in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. And we offer free case evaluations at 480-787-0394. All right, my friends. So let's get this puppy queued up so we can get right into the news of the day. The Hunter Biden laptop is confirmed by none other than Hunter Biden himself. Well, really his lawyers. They sent 4 different letters that we know of, we'll come back to that, to a bunch of people you're probably familiar with. You ever heard of the U.S. Department of Justice? Oh, yeah. That's the agency that is under the executive branch. Guess who runs the executive branch? Oh, that's right. Hunter Biden's daddy, Joe Biden. So he sent a letter to an agency that his daddy runs. That's nice. It's involving John Paul Mac Isaac, which is the owner of that laptop repair store that Hunter Biden apparently confirms he forgot his laptop at. And they're asking the DOJ to go and investigate that man for illegally converting the laptop hard drive. They want criminal prosecutions. That's why they're demanding this is looked into. We've also got Delaware. They sent a letter, Hunter's lawyers, over to the Delaware Attorney General, basically asking for a state level version of the same claims. We have a letter that went over to Tucker Carlson and Fox News saying that they were airing this illegally obtained laptop and they also must stop and cease and desist and all the things. And then they go after our friends over at Marco Polo and Garrett Ziegler, who was on this channel where we had a very deep dive and went through their report over at MarcoPoloUSA.org, which is where you can go and get a copy of the laptop report, which is now available in paperback. I bought my copy today. I don't know if you did, but you should. It's outstanding. So it is at MarcoPoloUSA.org. They are going to be sort of the subject of a request by Hunter's lawyers to remove their nonprofit status. These people are despicable, which is why they're going after every little facet of the opposition. So we're going to go through each one of those letters. We'll hear from reaction from the White House, from Ron Klain, from Ted Cruz. But first, let's start with the question that comes in from the media to start this segment off. And it goes to Karine Jean-Pierre. Feels a little bit strange that Joe Biden is the president of the United States, right? He runs the executive branch. And all of these agencies or sub-agencies are sort of in his cabinet, many of them. And Hunter is the president's son. Okay, so his lawyers are sending letters basically to his daddy complaining about his laptop that he left somewhere else that the FBI, mind you, was in possession of. Some people say as far back as December 2019, and they did nothing with. Let's go through this. So the question comes in from the media. Before we go through everything, I want to make sure we highlight 2 important concepts. One, this is a major conflict of interest, right? And Hunter knows this. It's one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. Say what you want about Trump's kids or whatever, but did they ever send a letter to Attorney General Bill Barr? Daddy, can you help me? Somebody found my crackhead hooker laptop hard drive. Can you help me, Trump? No, they never did that. It's embarrassing. And it's also a major conflict of interest. That's one. Point 2, they also lied about this. Joe Biden told us that this was totally fake. It was Russian disinformation. We've got a montage of that. And point 3, I've got questions about other letters that were sent out. Where did other letters go? We know that this one only went to the DOJ, Delaware, Tucker Carlson, and Department of Treasury. But I guarantee you that's not the end of it. These lawyers are going to say, hey, Hunter, how much of that Burisma money you still got left? How much of that, whatever that money you got from China, how much of that is still in your bank account? Perfect. We've got a bunch of additional letters to send. And so I can almost guarantee you they're going to the big tech platforms. They're going to Facebook and Google, and they're going to Twitter, and they're saying, you're posting hacked materials. Your users, Rob Govea on YouTube, are posting illegal conversations with Garrett Ziegler, and they're talking about this illegal stuff, right? They're going to be trying to suppress this. In other words, this whole strategy is now a full frontal attack against anybody who is challenging the Hunter team. It's kind of nuts that they're doing this, given the conflict of interest and given the open dishonesty that they've already laid down before revealing this to the rest of us, confirming it openly in letters. So the big question goes to Karine. Hey, Karine, Hunter sent letters to his daddy. Don't you think that's a little bit strange that the president's son is sending letters to the president?
Counsel for Hunter Biden has written the National Security Division of the Justice Department. I know you like to keep that agency very arm's length, but is it arm's length when the president's son writes DOJ seeking an investigation?
No.
I mean, look, I'm going to be pretty consistent, as I have been from this podium when it relates to that particular question that you're asking me. We have been for the last 2 years.
Anything related to Hunter goes to Hunter.
And I will say to you that that is something for Hunter Biden's personal representative, their representative to speak to. I'm just not going to speak to it from here.
We're not asking about Hunter's position on it. The letter went to your government there, Karine. Joe Biden's the president. He runs the executive branch. That's where the DOJ is. Hello. So what is the White House's posture on this? Do you just take random letters from random civilians? I mean, is this a thing that the White House does? They just say, if you have a complaint about something, you can just send it over to the White House, to the DOJ. We're going to go through all the letters. Are you okay with this? Are you giving this higher priority because it's the president's little baby, the smartest man he knows? Is he giving preferential treatment because of any of this? So you have an obligation to comment on this crap there, Karine. You can't just pump this off to Hunter. This is a little bit different, even though not really, than Hunter money laundering through his artwork, right? Little bit different. At least you can fake this. You can say, well, he's an artist now. He's a very sophisticated artist in, George S. Burgess Gallery and wherever. This is different. He's asking your government to do something. Hunter came in and sent a letter to the DOJ saying, prosecute somebody. What's your position on that? Can I send a letter? Because I would like to send a letter to the US DOJ and say, Hunter Biden's a criminal. Can you please prosecute him for robbing this country? I wonder how that would go.
The White House knew about before it happened?
Again, I would, as far as that piece, I would refer you to the White House counsel.
Why? To the White House counsel. It has to do with your government. It's going to the DOJ. It's going to the Department of Treasury and so on. So put that pin in your quill or hat or something, whatever they put that thing when, you know what I'm talking about. There's also something else that I want to highlight as we go through these letters. Joe Biden was dishonest about this. Hunter Biden presumably knew that this laptop hard drive was his, was accurate, was honestly, the legitimate reporting that came out was actually legitimate. And they lied to all of us for a long time. And they use these lies to suppress the story, as we've seen in the Twitter files and elsewhere. But Joe Biden in particular lied many, many times. So these letters are illustrating the sheer dishonesty that they were perpetuating throughout the entire campaign cycle and beyond.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
Okay, but it obviously wasn't a bunch of garbage. And Joe Biden could have just called up Hunter and just say, hey, son, there's a story about a laptop floating around out there. There's all these weird photographs of you and these underage women. I don't know. What can you tell me? Is this true? And what's he going to say? Well, Dad, no, it's not true, right? It's not true at all. And so that must be what he said. And so is Joe Biden standing by his liar son, or did the son tell him the truth and Joe Biden lied to us? We don't know. But we really don't even have any part of that conversation in this dialogue. It's weird that Joe Biden, I didn't catch this when this was all unfolding back at the time, but why didn't he just say that? Why does he have to defer over to 50-something so-called intelligence people who have no intelligence whatsoever, obviously, because they were dead wrong about it, and they have no integrity to come back and own their mistakes? Why did he have to refer to them? Why couldn't he just say, I literally talked to Hunter. He said it's not his laptop, okay? He was in Idaho that time, okay? He was hiking around. He wasn't even in the, there was none of that. He had to defer to other people. Why? Because he knows it's full of crap. He knows this is a lie. And he was lying to us when he was saying this stuff. He knows his son has a big problem. He knows it, or he's beyond, even more incompetent than we could even fathom. to not recognize, after a history of drug problems and abuse and all sorts of other scandals within their family household, that this wouldn't bubble up into a bigger problem? Here's more.
This is classic Trump. We have 4 days left, and all of a sudden there's a laptop. There's overwhelming evidence that from the intelligence community that the Russians are engaged.
All of that was a total lie. Totally. There was no Russian involvement in any of that. That was a real laptop.
Stories from the fall about your son Tucker were Russian disinformation at its near.
Office of the president-elect. So before the election, after the election, just laughing it off.
Yes. I know you'd ask it. I have no response. It's another smear campaign. It's a last-ditch effort, and it's desperate.
Yeah, so Joe Biden is just a giant liar, obviously, right? So they were dishonest about this. There was a conflict of interest in the son complaining to daddy president to fix these problems for him. I'm guessing there are many, many other letters that are floating around out there as well that are acting to suppress these stories. And it's going to be very interesting to see where they're going and why they're going to certain people. This is a major strategy shift for the White House. I got to imagine that Hunter and his counsel are communicating with White House counsel, and they're all involved in this. So this isn't about face, right? This is a pivot from where they were just trying to ignore this story and kind of hope it goes away. I don't know why they're making this change. They may be expecting charges coming down the pike. There may be, something that they know that we don't know, which is why they are strategically going on the offensive. There may maybe another shoe to drop, and they are trying to pre-butt whatever it is coming to try to chill some of the speech, to chill some of the coverage. Let's go through some of the letters so we can see exactly what they're asking for. We're going to start with the U.S. Department of Justice. This was a letter, as you can see, February 1, 2023. The law firm is Winston and Strawn. The partner drafting this is Abe Lowell. And this is on behalf of Hunter Biden. You can see this letter is going over to the National Security Division from the Department of Justice. Okay, just to be ultra clear about this. We've talked about this fellow before, Matthew Olson, the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. And they've had a lot of conversations with the Judiciary Committees and the Intelligence Committees. Matthew Olson, we've seen on all sorts of briefs on criminal filings. We've seen his name all over the place. So just to be clear, this is Hunter Biden's lawyers. We write on behalf of our client, Hunter Biden, and they're sending this letter over to the DOJ. Okay. Hunter Biden is the son of President Biden, who is the chief executive of this country, who runs the DOJ. So little son is complaining to President Daddy. It's really embarrassing, to be perfectly honest. All legal things aside, forget legal analysis, forget all the red pen, all the document that we're going to talk about. It's just embarrassing. As like a person of integrity. It's just embarrassing. Now, let's see what it says. We write on behalf of our client, Robert, to his daddy to request an investigation into the following individuals who are hurting our feelings, saying they violated federal law. The individuals are John Paul Mac Isaac of Delaware, Robert Costello, New York, Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon, Jack Maxey, Garrett Ziegler of Illinois, and Yaakov of XR Vision in New York. Right? All of these people now. And again, this is not a private citizen who's saying I was charged, somebody broke my civil rights somewhere. This is Hunter Biden, okay? As we have seen from the laptop, who by many estimates, we'll say, just to be very generous and fair to him, there's good evidence. But we'll say clear and convincing, maybe not even beyond a reasonable doubt, but pretty clear and convincing evidence that Hunter Biden was put in positions of power that he had no right to be in. He was given gobs of money for expertise he didn't have, and he was essentially selling access, by his own words, saying that he wouldn't have been in these positions had his name not been a Biden, right? He was trading on his family name. He was getting tons of money, exploiting America, filling his bank accounts up. And now, when all of those misdeeds have been exposed, everybody gets to see it on full display because this idiot left his laptop at a laptop repair center. And the FBI took it, and John Paul Mac Isaac was trying to sort of cooperate with the government. And then finally, he turned it over to the Trump campaign. And now Hunter's gonna cry foul, and he's gonna take the very money and funds and power that he's accumulated exploiting the American people and his daddy's exploitation of the American people, and take that money and then demand that the people who exposed him be prosecuted by his very daddy in this government. It's one of the most corrupt, disgusting things you've ever seen. I can't believe they put it in writing, to be honest with you. It's so embarrassing. These people exposed him. They're essentially like whistleblowers, right? Of showing all of his misdeeds, these emails and all of this disgusting behavior. All of it was covered up. It exposes the Democratic Party, and his lawyers have the gall to send a letter saying that they should all be investigated. Are you joking? Holy moly. All right. The government should investigate the unauthorized access, copying, and dissemination of Biden's personal information. They say John Paul Mac Isaac unlawfully accessed the personal data. And he's admitted that. They say, yeah, he's admitted to gaining access without his consent. And I think that would be debatable, right? I think that he would say that when you turn your property in, you sign it over here. If you abandon and don't pick up your stuff, you turn it over to our company. He admitted to copying the data without Biden's consent. And so take all these with a grain of salt, right? This is all some, lawyer somewhere who is hyper conjugating the language in order to serve his ends. But I think the response from Isaac, if he were here, would say, no, when I took hit, it's like when he signed to have me repair his laptop, I made him sign a waiver of liability or whatever. And that was enough to insulate me and immunize me from that claim. Anyways, he's admitted to distributing property without his consent. You're going to see this a lot. Nobody cares because it was abandoned property. That's what they're saying. These unlawful action caused the widespread publication, manipulation, and exploitation of Biden's most personal information. So there you go. Bingo, right? That's his laptop. They're confirming everything on there is now his. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be complaining about this. They say toward the end of the 2020 presidential election, Mr. Mac chose to work with Trump and Trump's lawyers to weaponize Mr. Biden's personal computer against his father by unlawfully causing the provision of his personal data going over to the New York Post. They called this a failed, dirty political trick. It was news. It was October. It's an October surprise. That's what happens every time. And by the way, actually, that was a repeat. You can rewind the clock back to 2016. They were trying to basically plant a fake story on Trump with the Hillary Clinton campaign. And Jake Sullivan, who is now Joe Biden's national security advisor. Okay, it's a one big, disgusting, incestuous thing. Mr. Mac Isaac, they say his intentional, reckless, likely unlawful conduct, unlikely to be, allowed for hundreds of gigabytes that he's owning now of Biden's personal data to be circulated around the internet. Politicians in the news media have used this unlawfully accessed copied to harm Mr. Biden. They say that he's admitted to repeatedly accessing the personal data. So they're going after the Mac repair store owner specifically here, saying that he readily admits his intrusion, that he got access to certain files. They say that at a certain time he wrote that he accessed 2013, 2014, 2015. Next year, he saw some additional materials about tax records. He says backing up his files for repair did not require him to review the contents. Yeah, but what he would say is that he didn't do that in order to back up the files, right? He went through the materials. Yeah, he went through the materials after the laptop was abandoned. He was going through them after he was trying to sort of recover the data and figure out whose laptop, where to do, what to do with this thing, essentially. He conceded it was none of his business. Yeah. In failed attempts to justify his unlawful access, they say he was very inconsistent in some of his stories. He doesn't really have any obligation to be. He's got no duty to you. They say his vision is impaired. They say that he claimed that he could not positively identify the person who came in April and left 3 devices. But then he switched his story and he said, oh, now I'm 100% sure. Okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? I guess they're saying that it was a fraudulent disclosure. So it's either he disclosed it or he didn't disclose it. Whether he could identify the person who dropped it off is not really relevant, I don't think. It might go to the credibility or the source of the files, but nobody's really questioning that. I mean, everybody questioned it except the people who could see it. The other people out there in the media just believe those 51 so-called intelligence people. So this goes on. It says, Mr. Mack unlawfully shared Biden's property with third parties, sent it in different places. They say that without Mr. Biden's consent, obviously, he sent a hard drive containing the data to Delaware to Mr. Mac Isaac's father, and they actually secreted it in an old Garfield stuffed animal. That's hilarious. So they were freaked out, man. So Mac Isaac, he's like, oh gosh, I've got Hunter's laptop. He calls Dad. Hey, Dad, guess what? Got the Hunter's laptop here, hard drive. What's on it? He goes, you don't even want to know, Dad. I know you've been around a block, but trust me, you don't want to see this stuff. And he ships it to him via UPS and says, stuff this away somewhere where you can't find it. And he finds an old Garfield stuffed animal, which is a good comic, of course. Isaac appears to have given another copy to a journalist, Ronald Scott Jr., also gave one to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, Robert Costello. Then there were some other additional hard drives that were shared. There was a Biden laptop from Hell Rally that was sponsored in Oklahoma. Several thumb drives went out back then. You can see they want the DOJ to investigate Robert Costello, which is a lawyer. In August, they say Mr. Max sent this over via FedEx to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. Costello admitted that he almost immediately accessed the material without permission to do so. Beyond reviewing the files, he said, oh, you feel like a voyeur. You're seeing the hard drive as a political weapon. Yeah, of course it was. And so he shared it with Rudy Giuliani, and then Rudy Giuliani shared it with the newspaper. They also want prosecution of Rudy Giuliani. They say Rudy also got a copy of this. And working with his friend and top aide, they gave a copy to Garrett Ziegler, who we're going to talk about soon, over at MarcoPoloUSA.org, where you can go support with your contributions. And a former aide to Trump, Giuliani, provided a copy over to the New York Post, and Biden did not consent to any of them having that. They also want Bannon investigated, saying that Bannon had some of this stuff and he gave some of the data to a Chinese billionaire called Gao Wengwei. Mr. Wengwei sent files on WhatsApp, right? So everybody's spreading the files around. Garrett Ziegler, who is a friend of this channel, who did a great interview with us here, which is linked in the description below. As stated above, they say that he was an aide, and he uploaded to the files, or the content of the files, to MarcoPoloUSA.org, where you can go and get a copy of the full laptop report, which you should. Jack Maxey, in December 2020, made and stole another copy of the data from a hard drive that Mr. Bannon possessed. They say stole, which is their nice conjugation of it. So they copied it and sent it to Republican members of Congress like Matt Gaetz. They want him investigated too. And they also sent it to the media, the Washington Post and the Daily Mail. Do they want them prosecuted? Are they going to be in here? Do you think that they want the Washington Post prosecuted or the Daily Mail prosecuted? Or no, they didn't put their names in here, did they? No, they didn't. They put Garrett Ziegler's name in here and Steve Bannon's name because these are partisan hacks. Mr. Maxey, alleging concern for his own safety, went to Switzerland and then disseminated more information there. And Yakov is the creator of XR Vision, and he was working with another senator, Senator Ron Johnson. All right, so they're also swinging after senators here. All right. The government should investigate manipulation of the data. They're saying, Daddy, can you please help us? We're very mad that my crackhead son's Hunter laptop is now disseminating all over the place. Can you please bring in the DOJ to fix this for us? Evaluating the data, they say that the hard drive was reported all over the place. They're saying that there were anomalies in the data, right? And this was when they were all saying that they couldn't report on any of this. The Washington Post and everybody was twisting themselves into a pretzel to say, no, we've examined this and it looks like Russian disinformation to us. They reported here, right? Yeah, they reported on September 1 and September 2, 2020, the months leading right up to the election in November coming up. September, October, November. So on September 1st and 2nd, they're reporting, oh no, we've investigated this file and it looks very, very problematic. Of course they did, because they didn't want to publish the story. They were all trying to spike this. They say the Washington Post reported that since 2019, they've determined that other people were able to access the files, right? So they couldn't talk about it. Mr. Mack copied the material he initially copied in 2019. He also attempted to turn it over to the FBI, who presumably did nothing with it. Former Trump aide Garrett Ziegler published the files, text messages, and other things that came from the hard drive. They say that Mr. Mack was talking about how he cloned the hard drive. He says he did not make a bit-by-bit copy or a clone, nor could he make a copy because the hard drive was soldered to the laptop's motherboard and you cannot stay logged into the waterlogged laptop long enough to copy the entirety of the hard drive. So the laptop would just keep shorting out. So they say he chose what he wanted. So okay, so it's sort of like the evidence is problematic because he didn't copy the entire hard drive. They also say that the government should investigate what Mac Isaac said to Congress when he was there testifying, saying he was dishonest to Congress. So they want him, sort of charged for perjury or something like that. Here are the different charges they want to see. So for Bannon, for Ziegler, for Mac, for everybody. This, again, Hunter Biden and his lawyers are complaining to his own dad's Department of Justice to prosecute his political enemies, the people who have embarrassed him, by releasing his own hard drive that he abandoned, that's not even his property, that exposes crimes that he committed, exploiting the American people, robbing the taxpayer, and trading on his family's name, peddling influence for the last however many decades. He's now complaining that he's been exposed. Please charge them with the crime after all of this. Can you believe this guy? Computer fraud and abuse. He says, this makes it a crime to intentionally access all of this. The facts here merit further investigation into whether computer fraud was violated. We also have the Stored Communications Act. They're referencing 18 U.S. Code 2701, saying this was accessed and so on. Electronic storage is defined as follows, and we believe that was violated. They also say the National Stolen Property Act. Whoever transports or transmits or transfers in interstate or foreign commerce any goods is guilty of a crime. Right? All the different elements. They say here, Mac did that exact same thing. He caused a computer to be transported in interstate commerce, at least 2 external hard drives containing all the data. He also knew that the property was more than $5,000, and he made a certain amount of money from peddling that information. They also say violates 18 U.S. Code 119, making personal information public. And this is knowingly and publicly available, and so on and so forth. They say that he's covered by all of this. They say the DOJ has prosecuted people under similar circumstances. Similarly, in a practice called doxing on Wikipedia, they say the defendant was convicted of violating different codes and sentenced to different years in prisons. Therefore, as documented, Biden's lawyers, Abe David Lowell, counsel for Robert Hunter Biden, the president's pathetic son, says as follows. Furthermore, as documented in various publications, many of the individuals named in this letter have admitted their actions would harm Biden or his family. Yeah, it's the exposure of Hunter's actions that would harm Mr. Biden or his family. You're missing a key point to this. The exposure of Hunter's actions. So they weren't the ones who exploited America and traded on the Biden name and funneled 10% off for the big guy. It wasn't Garrett Ziegler who did that, okay? That was Hunter Biden. All they did was expose it. To coin Steve Bannon's excuse, they thought it was war, they said. All right. The actions described above merit a full investigation, and depending on the facts, they may merit prosecution under various statutes. It's not a common thing for a private person and his counsel to seek to have someone else investigated, but the actions and motives here require it. Yeah, it is not a common thing. This is not a common thing for a private person and his counsel to sort of request charges. This is really, really pathetic. I can't even explain it. It's like, it's actually unbelievable. And his dad runs the DOJ. It's one of the most pathetic things I think we've talked about here in terms of like weak kind of just complaining. It's just not manly behavior at all, right? It's just not, and I know that is a gender term, and I probably going to get nuked off YouTube for that, but it's really not. It's just kind of like, whoa, are you serious right now? Your dad's the president, bro. You're sending letters like this. You want the DOJ, which your daddy runs, to go after a guy like Garrett Ziegler? You piece of what? All right. So that's what the letter says. Now, they've got some exhibits, that they're attaching here of what JP Mac was posting on Getter and other locations. So it's just pathetic. It's one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. So it's perfect, right? It's absolutely to form for Hunter Biden. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it does surprise me the level of how pathetic this actually is, but I guess it shouldn't because it is Hunter Biden we're talking about. All right, so something very similar is also going to the state. So we'll fly through this one. Okay, it's very similar. I don't want to spend too much time on John Paul Mac Isaac, but just briefly, there are two layers here. So they're asking the federal DOJ at a federal level to investigate federal level crimes, which is why when we went through that prior letter, it was all U.S. code violations, right? 18, whatever U.S. code, whatever the statute was. I think we talked 4 or 5 of them were in there. They're going to ask for the parallel charges in the state level criminal statutes. They're going to say those apply. And so we'll take a look at this one briefly before we turn our attention over to what they sent over to Tucker Carlson and Fox News for exposing them. And finally, what they sent over to our friend Marco Polo at marcopolousa.org. So let's go over through this Delaware letter to the AG. It's very similar to what we saw. It's another 14-pager, but it's mostly the same, structure, so we can go through it quickly. But again, absolutely pathetic. This is the president's son, the president of the country, sending a letter to the attorney general, somebody named Kathy, the attorney general of Delaware, which again, I'm sure that Joe Biden, for his 30 years, has a lot of sway in Delaware. Okay, a lot. I can't even imagine what it's like because I know what McCain land was like in Arizona. Remember that, my fellow Arizonans, when McCain was running stuff around here? It was nuts. It was like, it was ridiculous, honestly. But the same thing is, I would imagine, going on in Delaware, especially the fact that daddy is the president. So what kind of pressure? I don't even know who Kathy Jennings is. Don't even care. But what do you think the kind of pressure is coming down to bear upon her on what to do with this whole thing? It's like nuts. So she basically has to prosecute these people because the president's son is knocking on her door. And these lawyers are writing another pathetic letter. Dear Attorney General Jennings, our little whiner client called Robert Hunter Biden, loser, is here requesting an investigation into the following individuals. And we already talked about all those people. Now, it's the same thing, right? More or less, this is going to be a copy and paste version of this. So we can sort of fly through it. Let's see what the actual criminal statutes look like. Yeah, same thing. Old Garfield statute pops up again here. These lawyers are, I wonder if they're going to bill Hunter for a rewrite or if they're just going to, copy and paste the bill for a copy and paste, probably a rewrite. So you can see the different local level state violations are here. Under 11 Delaware Code, Section 935, they write misuse of a computer system. So they want all of those same people to be also charged with state level crimes. They say, same thing. It sort of mirrors the federal statutes. They want Mac Isaac, they want Costello, Giuliani, and Ziegler, and they want Applebaum, all of them brought under criminal investigation for these statutes. Similarly, 11 Section 940, another one called unauthorized access to a computer system, 11 Delaware Code 932. They say the facts and circumstances say that Mac Isaac and others committed these crimes, right? Section 932, admitting to transferring the data. Another section called destruction of computer equipment, saying they recklessly caused or tampering with some of the, hard drives. Theft of computer services. They say that Mac and Applebaum were not authorized to do this, that, or the other. Okay. This is what these lawyers are doing. This is very expensive work, and you got to find the right lawyers to do this. There's not a lot of lawyers who I think would be willing to sort of take on this type of a very unusual request and literally file a complaint on behalf of the president's son. Nuts. Theft. They say they should be investigated for theft, also possession of stolen property, also misapplication of another's property. And they say, look, as documented, they copy and pasted this too. It is not a common thing for a private person and his counsel to seek someone else being investigated, but the actions and motives here require it. Attorney Jennings, much of the conduct here has been admitted to. The laws of Delaware readily apply here. The actions were intended to have caused our client harm, and we ask that you please acknowledge this receipt of this request. We can supplement this letter with additional materials and would be happy to answer any questions you have. Counsel Abe Lowell, counsel for Robert Hunter, same addendum there. Right, so that's going to Delaware now, and that's a state level. So now, right, all these people who are the subject of these letters are now facing, what a disgusting country Joe Biden is turning this into. It is a situation where Hunter is in a position where he can use the strong arm of the federal government to go after the people who have exposed him. And the pressure is so high and heavy that it's very likely that he's going to get his way. Now, Tucker Carlson and Marco Polo and Garrett Ziegler also got letters. And we're going to go through them in detail because what they're also trying to do is chill speech. Tucker Carlson shared the story. Marco Polo drafted the laptop report, which you can read at marcopolousa.org and get your copy of the hard drive, or a copy, not of the hard drive, but you can get a copy of the report, which you can purchase in hard copy. It's well worth it. But before we take a look at the Tucker Carlson letter and we check in with what is happening to Garrett Ziegler, we're going to need to fortify ourselves in the face of this disgusting story about corruption at the highest levels. And in order to do that, we have to keep our energy high, our weight low, and our bodies fortified. One way to do that is with Field of Greens. And also, Field of Greens is very good. It helps you lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, how sick are you of all those ads for weight loss, pills, and fad diets? You've all been there, and we've done that, and they don't work. But you know what does work? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and I imagine the weight would probably just fall right off. But hey, you got vegetables, and not a fan of those, and you don't have time to eat fruit all day every day. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Field of Greens is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you can burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. You'll look and feel healthier, but the great proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight and you look fabulous. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started with 15% off your first order. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Use code Robert to save 15% off your first order. Get your real organic superfood from my friends at Field of Greens and save 15% off with code Robert. And you'll be bursting with green energy. Bursting at the seams with vibrance. And so let's take our attention now over to Fox News. Tucker Carlson also got a letter from Hunter Biden's lawyers. They're complaining. They're saying, you exposed our client. We're very offended. We're going to do stuff to you now. This is coming over from another law firm, Early, Sullivan, Wright, Geiser, and McRae. Drafted February 1st via FedEx. They say, oh, dear Mr. Tucker Carlson, and also Fox News. We're writing to you about defamatory statements that your host posted on his very popular show. And they say, all right, dear Mr. Carlson and Mr. Googer, we represent Hunter in connection with false and defamatory statements made by Tucker on his show about Biden paying, quote, rent to his father, Joseph Biden, in what Mr. Carlson implied was essentially a money laundering scheme to finance Biden's lifestyle prior to his election as president. And say that in speculating that he had unauthorized access to classified documents because of his proximity to the House. Biden's lawyers say that Fox News encouraged and consented to and ratified Tucker's theory and the rent story. Other conservatives also did. Notably, but other conservative entities have already retracted the rent story, including the Daily Caller. We demand, they say Tucker Carlson, we demand that you immediately retract these statements by spending a significant amount of airtime on such retraction. For example, stating the assertions were wrong and what other media, like Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post, which that's a hilarious source for that one, Glenn Kessler. Like he of the Washington Post reported that this was false. They say that here's the reasons why this was false. And here's what Tucker said, apparently. They write in their letter that Tucker apparently said something like, in 2018, Hunter Biden was looking to rent property in California. And on the form, he said he was paying $50,000 a month. Where'd the money come from, is what Tucker said. Now, these statements were false and had no factual support whatsoever, they say. Indeed, the falsity of these statements were reported in the Washington Post. In this article, a real reporter who actually checks facts. Oh, they're throwing elbows at Tucker. A real reporter who actually checks facts. Who's he talking about? Glenn Kessler? Unlike Mr. Carlson and Fox News, detailed that the statements were based on a tweet from an anonymous Twitter user and a report of the tweet. It was retweeted by Miranda Devine. Mr. Devine modified her earlier tweet, said he may be referring to rent on his house. The next day, there was a correction. Okay, yeah. So they say Tucker flagrantly violated journalistic professionalism, intentionally ignored the cautionary tweets about this being wild speculation, and ran with the story anyways. They say thereafter, Fox News doubled down on the story, including other guest hosts, including Jeanine Pirro, John Roberts, and Sean Hannity. They all dumped onto this. They say, shockingly, Fox News continued to press this ridiculous story even after Breitbart pulled back from the original story. So they're very upset about a version of the reporting. In addition, the information for the wildly speculative rent story is also unconfirmed, and Hannity relied on it too. They say under California law, these are the rules. Any publication that is false, defamatory, unprivileged, natural tendency to cause injury is actionable. And they say that Tucker admitting that this was wild speculation, on and on and on, is going to increase his viewership and drive ratings and revenue from advertising dollars, but it's not going to be in comportment with the truth. It's going to be a reckless disregard, and he needs to pay for it. So they say, all right, dear Tucker and your team, as a result of Carlson and Fox News and their actions described above, both Carlson and Fox News are clearly liable. And I had a professor said, don't use that word in your legal writing. Don't use the word clearly in your legal writing. So I think that's actually good advice. For defamation in violation of California law, and Mr. Biden has been significantly damaged. We therefore demand that Fox News have Mr. Carlson and all other Fox News commentators spend the same amount of airtime retracting the so-called story by 1, stating that the information underlying the so-called rent story was unreliable, stating that the rent story was wild speculation, again saying the same thing, stating that the Daily Caller said more reporting should have been done, and also stating that they didn't do fact-checking before saying wild speculation. We demand that Mr. Carlson and Fox News, by no later than the close of business on February 2nd, that's today. Wow, they gave him 1 day? Holy moly, look at this. This letter came out on February 1. They said, you better respond to us by February 2. That's today. Who do these people think they are? Good Lord. We demand written confirmation that they will comply with these demands. They better not negotiate with these terrorists. 1 day demand letter? Weirdos. Gosh. If we do not receive this written confirmation, I guess within 24 hours, or else we're going to murder your puppy or something, we will assume that you are both not interested in acting responsibly and professionally and willing to reverse its actual malice reporting. And we will take all steps necessary to protect Mr. Biden's rights. Should litigation then ensue, given the original lack of original basis, the retraction of other outlets, and our pointing out the errors again here, we would seek regular damages and attorney's fees and costs. Furthermore, Tucker and Fox, since you are both now on notice of potential litigation, we demand that you both take all necessary steps to preserve all of your communication. Don't destroy anything. This includes all internal emails, blah, blah, blah. This letter is not intended as a full recitation of the facts or a complete review of the applicable law. Nothing contained in or omitted from this letter is or should be deemed to be a limitation, restriction of any waiver. We're going to cover our monetary damages. Very truly yours, Brian M. Sullivan of Early Sullivan, Wright, Geisler, and McRae. All right, well, this letter was worse than the first one. This other law firm's a little bit better, I'll say. I like this law firm's a little bit better. Winston and Strawn, much better drafted complaint on that one. But of course, it's different. These are people who are, I don't know what Winston and Strawn is, but this one's different. Yeah, this is a defamation complaint. And Tucker and his lawyers should have some fun with that one. I mean, we'll see what they do. I'd love to see their response. I really hope the Tucker people post their response to that. But that should be fun. So we'll continue to cover that part of it. Now, lastly, our final letter from Hunter Biden's little whiner lawyers said the following. This one's going over to the Department of Treasury. The Department of Treasury. And of course, they're going after Marco Polo. Now, we've had a long conversation here with Marco Polo. The link is down in the description below. His name is Garrett Ziegler, and they've got a team over there. And so make sure you go and support them. And I mean this seriously. Like, stop whatever you're doing, open up a new tab, and go check them out, right? MarcoPoloUSA.org. It's a nonprofit. They wrote a report on the laptop, and so you can get a hard copy of the report. I ordered mine today, and you can go there and purchase a copy, right? And if you missed the interview with Garrett Ziegler, I would really encourage you to check that out. And like I said, support them. If you don't want the book, go make a dono to them, right? They're funded by your support. So they're going to need it. They're going to need some work. They're going to need counsel. They're going to need, some additional funding. So I'm really urging you to go support them. This is how you can help. All right. So this is also the letter that they got. Now, what they're trying to do is go after their nonprofit status because they are sneaky little snakes. Let's see what they wrote here. On February 1st, 2023, Hunter Biden's little whine lawyer, maybe the lawyers aren't as whiny, but their clients are certainly whining. Hunter is a whiner. And he is filing this or sending this on February 1st. They write, to Mr. Robert Malone, not that guy, the other one from the IRS, the worst one. Although we love the IRS here on this channel. Director, tax-exempt organizations here. Request of review of the 501c3 status. This is the status of Marco Polo. And again, they're writing on behalf of Robert Hunter Biden. And where is this going? To the IRS. I mean, even if you're like an ultra Democrat out there and you're like you're a Hunter Biden super fan, you're like, Sam Harris, who doesn't care if he has dead kids in basements or something, if you're that type of like super ultra Hunter fan. Are you cool with him sending a complaint letter to the IRS? Like, seriously? Is anybody out there, are you cool with him complaining to the IRS? Like, is that the type of person you are? You say, that's a great idea. Yeah, what you're okay with writing a complaint letter to the IRS? Okay, that's all right. I guess. All right, well, okay. Here is what the letter says. We write on behalf of our client, Robert Hunter Biden, to challenge the tax-exempt status of Marco Polo. They say it was formed as a certain entity originally some time ago, and they say it's now being disguised as a charitable organization. They say that Garrett makes public appearances, and he did. He came on this channel, and we did talk about the laptop report, which was an excellent report that I referred you to. He gave other speeches, and he's a very excellent communicator, serving as keynote speaker, Republican Party Christmas gala, doing all sorts of other things. Posting on social media platforms, conducting interviews. They say they don't like the compensation structure or earnings. They're just basically unhappy with this entity and how it's created. And so they say that they want a review of their exempt status. They're literally complaining like little hall monitors to the IRS, whining to their daddy's executive branch institution to go and go after their critics. The document is signed at a certain location. They're actually challenging like the formation, the filing structure. Yeah, amazing. And so they're following up. A review of this and Mr. Ziegler's operations say that he doesn't deserve the exempt status and he should forfeit their benefits through inaction for using the organization outside of the proper purview. Please acknowledge receipt of this letter and do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions about this request. Sincerely, Abe David Lowell, counsel for Robert Hunter Biden. So, right, use the government to go after your political enemies. They've been doing it for a very long time. They raided Trump's house with the FBI. They have weaponized the FBI against, well, basically anybody who is an ultra mega MAGA Republican. Joe Biden declared that from the podium in front of his Gates of Hell speech. And so now, I guess if you're a member of the family of the president, you can just send a letter in. You can just hire lawyers and just send a request in and make your complaint. And you can also demand Tucker and his people respond in 24 hours, or else I guess maybe the federal government will get involved. Very scary, very pathetic stuff from the president's son, but about expected. And so, as I said, one final plug, please go over and support Marco Polo USA and visit them at marcopolousa.org. Now, let's turn our attention to some reaction to this. Now that we know that Hunter Biden is confirming the laptop is his lawyers are saying, yeah, it's mine, and we want you to stop sharing it. The question now becomes, should there be a further investigation of Hunter Biden specifically? We know that there were classified documents found in the president's garage. We know that Hunter Biden had access to the president's garage and presumably even lived there for a certain period of time. There were documents in several locations in Wilmington. They were at the Penn Biden Center. There are stories that even Hunter Biden was in the sort of the hierarchy, the org chart of people who might have been picking people to move certain boxes. We've got Hunter Biden emails that appear to be like copy and pastes from intelligence briefings. We heard that from Senator Ron Johnson. The list goes on and on. Now, Ted Cruz is going to come out and explain. Maybe a further investigation, a deeper dive is well worthwhile.
Well, look, the Alcoa email, he was asking Alcoa, pay me $55,000. Now, I want you to think, when was the last time you demanded of someone, give me 55 grand for what? For my insight on Russian oligarchs and their networks of elites in Russia.
He has no idea about any of that stuff unless he reads a classified document.
And he's pitching this to them. Now, listen, Hunter Biden doesn't know anything about this. He
No.
doesn't have any history or background in this, which means, at a minimum, he made a business out of selling access to Daddy, making millions of dollars to Daddy. But the inference from both of these emails, the obvious inference is that he's reading materials assembled for his father when he's the sitting vice president. And both of these materials, look, the intelligence agencies do assessments of Russian oligarchs, of the networks of elites. What he's offering to sell is exactly the type of material that is contained in classified briefings. And we will know that.
And Ron Johnson, the senator, even said it looked like that, right? When you read the email, and we read through that here last week, maybe, the actual email, I think it was I don't even remember the date on it, but it was weird. It was very, very concise. It read like an intelligence briefing. I mean, I haven't read a lot of those, but it sort of looked like a very condensed, nicely consolidated book report about very complex issues. And you say, that's kind of weird. It kind of looks like a very concrete intelligence briefing. And where did Hunter get all that information? I don't think that's on Wikipedia.
This special counsel On the plus side, the special counsel Robert Hur was a former clerk to Chief Justice William Rehnquist. That's encouraging. Chief Justice Rehnquist was my former boss. That's encouraging. On the negative side, this special counsel was the right hand to Rod Rosenstein and also to Chris Wray. That raises real concerns about his involvement in the Russia hoax and the abuses from the deep state going after Donald Trump. And it really will be, the proof will be in the pudding. If
right,
he is
Senator.
willing to examine the evidence, I believe the FBI needs to search the documents at the University of Delaware, and it needs to search Hunter Biden's home and business addresses to see if there are classified documents at any of those places.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? I mean, do they trust Hunter? Have they seen the laptop? Like, has the Department of Justice seen the same laptop that we've seen and that the Polo USA.org team has assembled in a great report over there? I'm not sure that they have or not. Now, this is more than just Hunter Biden. Of course, Hunter Biden was the bag man for Joe Biden. He was the person who was trading on the name, peddling the influence, getting paid $80,000 a month or whatever it was. He's now complaining to the people in charge to go fix all of his exposure. But it's not just about Hunter Biden, right? This has never just been about Hunter Biden having a problematic past and making money in nefarious ways. It was about collusion and about corruption, more specifically, between Hunter and the power structure, the people who are in charge, in this case, the President of the United States of America. And so when Hunter is implicated, it's implicating Joe Biden. And so we ask ourselves about what the White House has to say about this, because if Hunter Biden was selling information that he got from classified documents, maybe that's why Joe Biden was bringing those documents home, even though he said himself it was irresponsible to do that. So the White House Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, is on his way out. They've decided to swap him out for somebody else who probably is going to be worse than him. Zients, who said that we're all going to suffer a winter of severe illness and death, that guy is now going to be swapping in here. But Ron Klain finished his last day. He sat down with MSNBC, and whoever this guy is, asked him about the Biden document scandal. Here's Ron.
Ron, obviously the news of the day is another document search, this time at the president's beach house. FBI and apparently the Biden lawyers say nothing was found this time. When did the FBI request the search that was conducted today?
Look, the president's been very clear. He's been working with
Answer it!
lawyers, with the FBI, to make all of his residences available. They were able to search through every single inch and room and drawer of his home in Wilmington.
Did they go through Jill's closet like they did Melania's?
They requested the opportunity to search his beach house as well. They've done that. As you said, no documents with classified markings were found in that house. The hallmark of our handling of this has been cooperation with the Justice Department, with the archives in the first instance, to make them aware. They didn't ask for documents from us, President.
They didn't even know they were there because Joe Biden wasn't supposed to take them. So they're trying to draw these distinctions between Biden and Trump, but they are not the same.
And his legal team said, hey, we found some of these documents. We've been cooperating fully, and today's was just the latest example of that cooperation.
Yeah, and they didn't tell us about that either. The media busted them. They're hiding outside of Joe Biden's residences now. They're watching him when he's walking off the helicopter, seeing if those classified materials are going to escape down one of his pant legs and pop out into the sky. So Ron is on his way out, but again, he adds nothing to this. And honestly, this may be part of the reason he is being exited, or he is exiting because of this catastrophe. Some people are noticing that timing, saying, oh, it's very convenient that he's abandoning ship as the ship is seemingly sinking. Now, it also goes over to the White House. Of course, we always like to check in with Karine Jean-Pierre. And the media asks her about some of the statements that we've covered here from Karine that have been not honest or not open, not accurate, more specifically. Like this one, where she told us that the search was completed. Now, we're going to go through this one. Some of these I think might be fair. Some of these might be unfair. But Karine has lied, in my opinion, to us multiple times. Some directly, some by omission. The RNC went through, gathered all of the different times that Karine has said the search was completed. It's very interesting that she said those things because, as we learned yesterday, the searches were not completed. The searches were continuing on. But you can get sneaky with words here, okay? When Karine says the search is clearly complete, is she talking about the search of one location? That's what she would say. I would say, well, that's not what the question was, Karine. The question was about the search for documents, the full universe. Is the search of Biden done? Like the whole thing, all of it done. Is the search complete? She said, well, the search of the Wilmington residence was complete. The search of the Penn Biden Center was complete. I wasn't talking about Rehoboth. I wasn't talking about Hunter Biden's ex's house over there in wherever. This is Karine Jean-Pierre saying repeatedly the search for the Biden documents was complete, even though, as we know, they weren't.
The search is clearly complete. They completed the search. The search is complete. He is confident in this process. You should assume that it's been completed, yes.
Nope, hasn't.
After the search concluded last night,
Didn't.
that search was completed last night.
Yeah, but there were many other searches that were going on. In fact, they just did one without telling us. So the search was not actually completed. It may have been completed at one location, but not in all the locations. And so with that as one example of many, there are many more, the media asks her about this. Karine, and they're very nice and kind to her. They say, Karine, why have you been so inaccurate up here? Whereas other people might say, why are you lying to us day after day, Karine?
Thank you. I have two questions, one about the documents case and one about the Tyree Nichols funeral. On the documents case, one of the features of the early public narrative of this episode that has kind of already taken root is the reporting to the effect that statements from this podium at different points later proved to be inaccurate. And without expecting you to delve into the details, because we all know that you cannot from the podium, I nonetheless wonder if you could simply assure us that you challenge that element of this narrative, that you are satisfied personally with the accuracy of all of the information that you've dispensed from this podium.
So James, look, I'll say at this podium, I will always follow the guidance of the White House Counsel Office when it comes to ongoing investigations. We've been very we've been very clear about just ongoing investigations that is led by the Department of Justice, making sure that they have their independence. This is something that the president has talked about through the campaign and through the last 2 years. I have been consistent about that. When I have made statements from this podium on this investigation, it was at the guidance of the counsel's office and consistent with what they have said and wanted to communicate at the time, right? And I have said this, the White House counsel's office has said this. One of the reasons we try not to comment on this is because it's changing, right? It is currently under investigation. And when you have a legal matter, as you know, I know you understand this, things change and things move very, very quickly. And so I've continued to provide the information that I have had at the time, and I will continue to do that.
Non-answers from Karine, womp womp. So the media wants to know now, right? They're actually sort of calling her a liar without calling her a liar. It sounds like they're asking, why were your statements inaccurate? Why are you lying? If we know that you told us this, like the searches were complete and they weren't complete, should we trust the other things that come out of your mouth? Are those also going to be inaccurate? And she says, well, it's a good question. Don't call me a liar, call the White House counsel a liar, because I can't take it. So that is what the White House is saying about all of this. Of course, we're going to continue to follow this document scandal. It is going to be big. We've got some very interesting things that I'm sure will be revealed to us. And one very interesting super chat just came in while we're here. Says everyone should read the October 23rd, 2012 email from Hunter's laptop, I'm sure, with a subject line that says, VP is in a good place now. Beat Romney in debate or the election, ? So that was a dono that came in from Jonah and says there's an interesting email spreading around out there that is worth looking into. So take a look at that one. Of course, we will continue to cover this stuff. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. And we will look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, now, my friends. So now let's turn our attention over from the White House and over to Congress, because there was some fun activity in there today. And you can see we've got some very animated individuals here in Congress today. The Foreign Affairs Committee is now shy one less Ilhan Omar. The Republicans booted her off the committee, and the Democrats were very unhappy about this. You can see AOC went on a tear today. Cori Bush is back there just nodding away, saying, this is outrageous. And so we're going to go and listen to what these ladies from the squad had to say. We've got Ilhan speaks, Rashida Taleb speaks. We'll take a look at the final vote. But first, let's figure out what Kevin McCarthy is thinking here. Why was he going to boot Ilhan Omar off? You know who Ilhan Omar is. She is this congresswoman right here, been the subject of a lot of controversy and a lot of provocative opinions over the last couple of years. Her, together with Rashida, Cori, and AOC, I think they call themselves #the squad. And so this is a big battle. They're going to be removing her. Oh my gosh, how could they possibly do that? Here's what Kevin says. He wrote on Twitter, he wrote this. He says, Ilhan Omar's past statements make it clear she is unfit to represent the U.S. on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Why? 3 points from Kevin. He says, 1, she repeatedly used anti-Semitic tropes. She described 9/11 by saying, quote, some people did something. And she compared America and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban. Yikes. Oh, okay, well, that's not a real good thing to, I guess, maybe say if you're a United States congressman, but maybe that's what her constituents want. The country is changing rapidly. Regardless, this is what Kevin McCarthy said about it when he was asked by the media. Hey, Kevin, are you really going to remove Ilhan Omar? Doesn't that make you even more of a racist white man than you already are?
She said the American military was equal to Hamas and to Taliban from a member of the Foreign Affairs. She said Americans only like Israel because it's all about the Benjamins. And 3 years later, she said, I didn't know there's a trope when it comes to referring to someone who's Jewish with money. She said on 9/11, as a member of Congress, as an individual who's sitting on foreign affairs, something happened that day. What does that say to other people around the world? What does that say to somebody else who wants to create another 9/11 America? I'm sorry. It's not right. We were right in our action, and she can serve on other committees. But it puts America in jeopardy, and I'm not going to do that under my watch. And it's fair in the process, unlike them.
Bye-bye. So he said, you're gone. So, of course, that came up for a vote today. There was actually a resolution on it, and it was called the Resolution to Remove Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. You can see that right there. Now, before we get to the vote, there was a bunch of debate about this. A lot of people saying that, yeah, she's got to go. And there were other people saying, no, she's got to stay. We heard Kevin McCarthy's take on this. So let's see what Ilhan herself says and how she addresses this very resolution to remove her specifically. This is Ilhan.
This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker.
Not really. It's about your membership on a committee, just yours, not everyone's.
There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim.
Is that a photo of her? Did she bring her childhood photo with her?
It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident that former President Donald Trump led a birther movement that falsely claimed he was born in Kenya. Because to them, falsely labeling the first and only President of the United States of America a Muslim and African immigrant somehow made him less American. Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa.
Look at Cori Bush. Look at AOC in the background, all nodding their heads.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced. Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing. I am an American who was sent here, by her constituents to represent them in Congress, a refugee who survived the horrors of a civil war, someone who spent her childhood in a refugee camp, someone who knows what it means to have a...
All right, so you can see, you get the gist of it. So that's Ilhan Omar giving us her, her very, very passionate plea about why she's an American and why all of her plights are all, make her deserving of that committee position. But I think she forgot the fact that the Republicans are in charge, and if the Democrats are going to play these games with Republicans, well, the Republicans are going to play them back, and it kind of stings, doesn't it? But again, none of it is really relevant to anything that Kevin McCarthy said. The reason I started with Kevin is I wanted to see what his positions were. She says she used anti-Semitic tropes, doesn't think 9/11 is important, and says that Israel and Hamas are the same, and America and the Taliban are the same. All right. Well, those are great. Not one thing in there did he ever challenge her Americanness or her citizenship or any of those things. She turned it into that because she is sort of a big drama, a lot of dramatics and theatrics coming out of these types of speeches. But it's not really to the point. So she talks about representation, which is a fair point. She was elected by her constituents, and if they want her to say those things, they're going to keep re-electing her. That's true. But the country as a whole also elected and represented more Republicans than Democrats this time in Congress. And so what does that mean? That the Speaker of the House gets the power to decide the committee assignments. That's the rule. And so this isn't some travesty of like anti-democratic values or something. They're not removing some, poor immigrant who was abused growing up or suffered war or whatever from a committee assignment because they're racist white Republicans. This is because the Republicans are in charge, and that's how the balance of power works. So even though they want to, cry and wail like a bunch of whiners, it's just standard operating procedure in Congress. And if a Republican was doing this, then they would all, of course, say, well, that's nice, but you're going off the committee. You don't run things around here anymore. We do. But to carry on with a lot more of the crying, this is Rashida Taleb, and she's going to be doing the same thing.
Censor Congresswoman Omar in the same week. They introduced a bill to ban federal employees from engaging in censorship. Where are the free speech warriors today? The hypocrisy is obvious to the American people. You are showing who you all are, really.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Omar will not be silenced.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
To Congresswoman Omar,
the gentlewoman's time has expired.
That our country is failing you today through this chamber. You belong.
The gentlewoman is no longer recognized, and the gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
All the Democrats.
Gentlewoman from.
All the Democrats back there. That was so brave. Oh my God, that was so brave. Oh, no. Oh my gosh. She's crying from the rooftops. She got removed from a committee. Okay. Holy moly. All right. So before we get to AOC and Michael Lawler, let's check in with Cori Bush. Here's Cori Bush. You saw her nodding back there very aggressively. This is Cori Bush defending her friend Ilhan.
St. Louis and I rise in support of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. I've been to her district. I've spoken with her constituents. We visited marginalized communities globally together. This institution is better because of her leadership, and the Foreign Affairs Committee benefits from her perspective. So let's talk about what's really happening. Republicans are waging a blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar. And I've said it before, I will say it again. The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable. It is Congresswoman Omar who has been harassed at her job for simply existing as a Muslim woman in Congress. It is she who has been attacked by a member of this body, ridiculing her as a potential terrorist for simply existing. As a Muslim woman in this Congress.
No, she said a bunch of stuff and she's done a bunch of things. It's not that she just existed, Cori. She said 9/11 is something that happened, you know. She said a bunch of stuff that outraged a bunch of people. And guess what? Democrats aren't in charge anymore. So she's not entitled to a committee position. And it's not an assault on Muslim women.
So rather than bring an actual accountability, any accountability to Congress, they bring this offensive resolution to the floor. This is just a bunch of racist gaslighting. We all know it. Vote no.
Brilliant.
General.
Brilliant. So those are very, very concrete, sophisticated arguments coming out of the squad so far. Let's turn our attention over to the Republicans to see what they have to say about this before we wrap up with AOC and the vote. This is Michael Lawler. He is a Republican out of New York, and he is offering a justification for the bill, explaining why Ilhan needs to be booted off the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's not because she's a Muslim woman. It's because she has said some things that are pretty dang offensive to a lot of people in this country. Lawler explains.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to speak in support of House Resolution 76. This is not about vengeance or retribution. It is about accountability. I represent New York's 17th District, home to one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. Between Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Dutchess counties, I represent almost 100,000 constituents that practice the Jewish faith. I take the scourge of anti-Semitism very seriously. It is something that must be rooted out in our society, as well as in the halls of Congress. No one who peddles in anti-Semitic activity, behavior, or language should have any right to serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which has an incredibly important role to play in partnering with our strongest ally, the State of Israel. Two of my predecessors, Ben Gilman and Elliot Engel, served as chairs of this important committee. Israel's continued existence as a beacon of liberty, democracy, and peace in the Middle East serves as a model for other nations in the region and is something we should be celebrating, not demeaning. Comments made by members of this body about support for Israel being all about the Benjamins, or that the State of Israel is engaging in apartheid, are appalling, wrong, and disqualifying. Additionally, those who dismiss 9/11 as some people who did something, are you kidding me? It was a terrorist attack. It wasn't some people doing something.
It's a pretty big deal that day.
Or to equate the United States and Israel, both democratic nations, to the Taliban and Hamas, and those who promote the anti-Semitic BDS movement, you're damn right they deserve to be held accountable.
That's right, Lawler. So he is firing back. And you can see a little bit of a different stylistic change there, right? You know, one side is kind of one way and Lawler comes out and is a little bit more, you know, grounded, so to speak. And so here we have a final clip from AOC. And boy, she is fired up. So we'll listen to her before we check in with the vote and see how the House left it. This is it. AOC very unhappy that Ilhan Omar is about to be thrown off the committee. She is letting Congress know.
Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single
Time has
apology
expired.
when my life was threatened. Thank you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa. Jewish people have space lasers? What? Where did those come from? I didn't know that was even a thing. Man, that's pretty cool. All right, so she is very animated, as you can see there. And look at that little slap down at the podium. That's violent right there.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Woo! That big booty Latina is fired up. Woo! Ay, ay, ay. Pretty good stuff there. All right, so AOC is going in hard. She does not want Ilhan Omar to be thrown off the committee. Let's see if the House voted to keep her on or to throw her off. Here's how the votes came out when they rang the gavel.
Is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those
Bye,
in favor
Ilhan.
say no. It's the opinion of
Those are the Democrats.
It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to. And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
All right, so that was the motion being on the table, and then this is the vote. You can see time
On this
expires.
vote, the ayes are 218, the nays are 211, with one answering present. The resolution is adopted.
Bye,
Without
Ilhan.
objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Bye, Ilhan. You see the final vote was 218 to 211 on agreeing to the resolution to remove Rep. Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. So she is now going to be gone. And of course, it was a spicy day in Congress. We're going to have a lot more of that. We will continue to cover it. The Republicans are back in charge of the House of Representatives, which means it's going to be fun ahead. So please do subscribe if you'd like to follow along as we cover a lot more of this. Don't forget to like this video before you hop on over to the next one, and we will see you there. All right, my friends, that is it for us on the day. Boy, we covered some good ground today, had some fun over in Congress, saw Ilhan get booted off one of those very prestigious committees. We went through a bunch of letters today that Hunter Biden's lawyers sent over to a slew of individuals. Tucker Carlson, our friends at Marco Polo, also John Paul Mac Isaac, state charges being recommended, federal charges being recommended by his private counsel, not by anybody who really matters all that much. But we also talked about Karine Jean-Pierre and the promises from the president about the laptop being fake, even though we know that they are not. And of course, now it is time to hear from you, my friends, and to see what you have to say about this over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our friends on Rumble, our super chats that came in from our awesome supporters on YouTube. We'll check some of the Twitter comments. And so for those of you who are just tuning in, thanks for joining us. But let's see who is saying hello in the chat today. Zulu started us off. Zulu says, daylight savings time makes it difficult for me to make it on time, if at all. Did you do the Kari Lake feloniously tweeting voter signatures to violate election integrity yet? I was hoping to hear how you'd weigh in on it. No, we actually haven't dug into that story. We talked a little bit about it on our member-only morning streams, Zulu, which if you missed those, you can see those on YouTube or on Locals. We've talked a little bit about it, but I haven't taken a deep dive into it. But did daylight savings time change? Did that actually change? Arizona doesn't change at all. So I don't even know if that changed. I'm going to have to look that up after the show. But we'll miss you, Zulu, if you're not here. Hopefully you can join in whenever that does change. But I'm grateful for that you're here. And yeah, we can take a deeper dive into Kari Lake stuff. I don't know. They're alleging she committed a felony? Part of my understanding was that she may have taken those from publicly accessible records or from actually the hearing itself. I'm not sure. But thank you for sending that in, Zulu. I appreciate that one. And good to see you here, my friend. Hopefully you can make it in the future. Jonah is here, says everyone should read the October 23, 2012 email. Yeah, we got that one. The subject on that email is VP is in a good place now to beat Romney in a debate or the election. You could probably find that at marcopolousa.org as well. So thank you to Jonah Ryan for sending that one. Fred Petamonte is here, and Fred Petamonte has just this little rascally dog that's just in all sorts of trouble with the feds all the time. Let's see what he got into today. He says, Robert, my dog bought an AR-15 today. Wow, that's awesome, man. He said, and so Fred said to his puppy, he said, dude, we already have one. So the dog said, no, you have one. I want my own. Okay, that makes sense that the puppy, yeah, he wants his own. I mean, two of them, two's better than one. And so Fred says to his dog, he says, well, okay, weird. Where'd you get the money? And the dog said, my good friend at the FBI gave it to me. Oh, gosh, you're in trouble, Fred. You're probably going to get arrested for probably a white supremacist kidnapping plot. You're about to get arrested and indicted for that. And your dog's probably in on it. Arresting the family for, yeah. What governor are you kidnapping? Are you guys kidnapping a governor? You better be careful on that one. Gosh, that dog is into a lot of trouble, man. Woo, woo. All right, so Zulu just gifted 10 memberships on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for doing that, Zulu. Thank you for doing that, brother. Yeah, and so we're doing member-only morning stream. So if you're a member on Locals or if you're a member on YouTube, we do member-only streams. And so you should come check us out every day, every morning, well, every weekday and Saturday mornings and sometimes in between. But thank you, Zulu. So we've got some new people who are joining us as members on YouTube. Big welcomes to Anthony Phillips Smith, 2Tim3, Rage Star, Unsound Engineer, Kumi's in the house, John Doodle, welcome John Doodle, Frosted Sleet, Mary Jo Stevenson, Shelly is in the house. Thanks, everybody. We're looking forward to seeing you guys. So come and check us out. We'll be here tomorrow morning to do a members-only morning stream. And we're getting a bunch of new names and new faces joining us. The chat is getting a little bit more lively now on both platforms because we're kind of getting a regular cadence here. And it's a lot of fun. You get to connect with people. So thanks for doing that, Zulu. All right, and Fred Petamonte is also here. Says, smash the like button, win a free country. Thank you for saying that, Norman. I think it is important to like, right? I try, sometimes I catch myself being a little bit lazy with the like button. It's like, hey, don't be stingy with your likes, Rob. So thank you, Norman. Alan Harkin says, nobody brings the news of our finest and fabulous crooks. You make the grotesque palpable because you're smart and savvy man. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Alan. That's another very generous one from you, Alan. I appreciate you being here. And I enjoy this conversation with you. I think that it would be a lot more painful for me to have to wake up every day and read the news without being able to share it with you guys. And so I'm grateful for our time together. The little secret is, I love this. I love hanging out with you guys. It's a ton of fun. So it's some of the best stuff I get to do. So I'm really grateful for it. And the fact that we get to, journey through these ups and downs together, my friend, is just, it's going to be fun. We've got a long road to go, and I'm hopeful that you stick around with us, Alan. Thanks for being here and being such a good supporter. SDFU is here, says the word you're looking for is, quote, Omar is a demagogue. Yeah, I think that's a good word too. It's like anytime there's no argument, there's no default argument, they just turn back into racism, white supremacist, Muslim now, Muslim stuff. They're going back to 9/11. Hello. That was a long time ago. Jeez, you're digging that one up? That's how upset you are? That's how bad your arguments are? That you got to dig up the 9/11 stuff? Give me a break. All right. And so those were the great super chats that came in from our friends on YouTube. Thank you very much for sending those in. They really do mean a lot. And let's see what else we have over on Rumble. We've got our friends over there. We got Peter Tags in the house, Jan X over there, Anything, User 1121, Slow Hand, Nick Danger, the third is over there, Sportfish, and our Rumble chat is getting a little bit busier too, and we're grateful for that. So we're building some good momentum on Rumble, and we're grateful for everybody who supports us there, because it's only a matter of time until we get another strike, which reminds me, I forgot to mention this at the start of the show, but our friend Good Logic got a strike today. Yeah, he just posted about this today, literally right before the show started. So let me grab this just so you're aware of this. He changed his name. Hang on a second. So Good Logic got a strike on YouTube. And here is what he posted on YouTube. All right, so make sure that you're supporting him on this one too. I get so tired of this crap. The following program, this is Good Logic. Fiery but mostly funny host of the following program. So I think he changed his name. And here's what he says. I got a YouTube strike again. All right, Good Logic, Joe Neerman from Good Logic punished for reviewing the Project Veritas recent expose on Pfizer. Every person who watches my show knows that I never give medical advice. This is Big Pharma using big tech to silence us. At Team YouTube, stop destroying your own content creators. Hi, Good Logic. You violated our medical misinformation policy. Ridiculous. We should be able to talk about this stuff. It is pure censorship. They are upset that Pharma got embarrassed by Project Veritas, and they're sad that Joe is talking about it. And so they gave him a stinking strike, jerks. All right, so make sure that you go and support your friend, our friend, Good Logic, and Joe Neerman. He's over on Locals, and he's on Rumble too. So now is the time to follow him on that. And let's grab his Locals community link and throw that in the chat while we're here, so that everybody can go and follow that. All right, so on YouTube, that is now pinned, and I'm dropping that on all of the other chats as well. So he got the strike. You know, the problem with these strikes are you can't communicate with your audience anymore. It's a giant nightmare. So it's just a problem. So if you're not following him on Twitter, go follow him on Twitter. If you're not following him on Locals or on Rumble, go follow him on those places, because he absolutely deserves your support. He's a great content creator. He's speaking truth. He's fighting a good fight, and he's getting punished by these censors because he's being effective, and that's what irritates me the most. All right, so go follow our friend Good Logic. We love Joe. And now, since we're on Twitter, let's check out what's going on over on our show thread. And let's see. Oh my goodness, we have 6 viewers here. 6 viewers alerts. We're almost at more than that. We're almost at double digits. Oh gosh, we have the great GIF versus GIF debate is here. This comes in from our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, who's a meme smith extraordinaire. He says, this is the GIF version of the Annunciation. This is the GIF version of the Annunciation. Oh gosh. Yeah. He says, here's another one. Here's the GIF version of the pronunciation. Here's another GIF version of the Annunciation. Yeah. I don't know about any of that, you know. I think that sometimes GIFs are quite appropriate. Oh yeah, we had another one. Here, so this is going to be brutal. Paul has been warning us about this. Rob, please warn your viewers. Tomorrow on Locals, our Locals community, is going to be a meme Friday, and it's going to be like no other. Only the brave and the resilient should partake. Should be a lot of fun. Fingers crossed. See you there. That's going to be taking place tomorrow. So we're going to open up a meme. Actually, we have a meme thread and a meme chat that's open all the time. And so we'll be going through the memes on Meme Friday. Yeah, we'll have some fun on that one. But it could be brutal, you know. So brace yourself. Put the children to bed before we get memeified. Here's a meme. Biden said if I bounce more, they will take me seriously. From Rebecca John. Good to see you, Rebecca. JD Pack says, why haven't you posted to Spotify lately? I don't know. Normally we just post to one platform and then it syndicates. I'll have to check. Danny says, Tucker's going to be good tonight. We had a couple other ones. Adam says, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a woman of color, but she got removed from all committees. That's true. What happened there? Was that white racism or something? I don't know. Very strange. Just Waiting says, we've heard from 51 so-called heads of intelligence that the laptop wasn't Russian disinfo. Just for Hunter himself to prove that it was. You can't make this stuff up. That it wasn't. Yeah, Hunter himself proved that it wasn't. Hunter's Biden's lawyers are what give lawyers a bad name. Yeah, I mean, very shady type of stuff going on. We had a couple other comments from TJ in the house. And so thank you, TJ, for sharing some of those. Asking a question about a Trump victory in Florida from TJ over on Twitter. And I appreciate all of our Twitter friends. Of course, if you'd like to follow us or any of the other watchers, anybody else who's out there watching the show, Twitter's a good place to do that. If you don't want to go and join us over on Locals, which is where we will be going. because we do have a time for our after party, which is going to be taking place right now. And so if you'd like to join us, head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to continue on the conversation over there. Of course, I also want to thank our sponsors of the program, Brick House Nutrition, where you can get your superfood. Field of Greens, get your vitamins through fruits and vegetables. It tastes delicious. It's very good for you. Save your 15% with code Robert when you go to checkout. Don't forget to use that code, and you can save money and feel healthier, feel vibrant and energized and bursting with vibrance. And also, of course, our law firm, the R&R Law Group, located in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have a mission to help good people charged with crimes here in Arizona. And if you know anybody who needs some help, send them our way. We're online at rrlawaz.com or on the phone at 480-787-0394. I also want to thank the mods who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. We see Just Cause in the house. We've got Zulu. We have K Bean is here. We also have Play and Hooky, all modding the fort for us. We also have our friends Lean. We've got Ronnie Cole and Zulu, who swings by. Now, Zulu's here regularly. Geo swings by from time to time, and we're good to see. Always nice to see the mods modding the fort down for us. We have our Meme Smiths over on Twitter. Don't forget to follow our friend at Sleepy Dog Lee, and on locals, our friend Gigum Gigum, who is responsible, both of them, for very, very spicy memes. All right, but that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. I hope to see you there, but if not, I hope you do have a beautiful night, a very restful sleep with beautifully sweet dreams. And so you wake up refreshed and rested, so tomorrow we can see you back here and do it all again, so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.